Today is Wednesday, the 8th of April, 2020, and I'm Alison, and this is my second Stripping the Willow vlog, which I've decided to call Any Ordinary Year. Now this morning I come to you from my egg chair out on my back veranda, one of my all-time favourite places to chill out, have a cuppa, have a chat. It's perfect for reading a good book, and I've actually decided that today I'm going to base my vlog on a book that I'm currently reading. The book is called Any Ordinary Day. This is by Leigh Sales, who you probably are all familiar with from ABC 7:30 Report. And she decided to write a book which interviews people who have faced horrific situations in their life, and she chats with them a few years down the track to find out how they've coped, what those 2 years have looked like, and where they are today, what their life looks like now. So it's a great book to read. I'm very inspired by the people in the book, and it also addresses questions and thoughts that we all have around bad things happening in this life. So if you're looking for a good book at the moment, I'd encourage you to get a copy, have a read, and a bit of free advertising for Leigh Sales. Anyway, she's decided to call it Any Ordinary Day. And I like that title because these people got up, were going about their normal business, doing their usual things, and little did they know that something was about to happen that would turn their world upside down, that would mean life would never be the same again for them. For some it was visiting Port Arthur on that dreaded day. For others it was having a coffee at the Lynn Cafe, hurricanes, getting lost in the Himalayas, losing loved ones in tragic ways. There's a whole range of people that she talks to, and it's really interesting. But as I thought about that title, Any Ordinary Day, I thought about us at this time. And we started the year in a pretty ordinary way, I reckon. We probably all celebrated the new year in whatever way we do that. We holidayed with loved ones and then headed back to work, headed back to school, headed back to uni, whatever we were planning to do. And little did we know that this COVID-19 virus would impact our world in such a way that our daily lives were not going to be the same. One of the things that's interesting as I read the stories of these people, and I see it in people around me who are walking through tough times, and some of you listening probably relate to this completely, that as you go through these really rough times, there seems to be this strength that develops and this ability to bring good out of it, and often it bursts a really good movement and an ability to help others, and there's a real richness in it. But as those of us looking on perhaps really appreciate that and would want some of that for ourselves, I mean, very few of us would put up our hand and say, oh, I really want to go through something hard. And it's like this year. I mean, who of us would put up our hand to say, oh yes, I want to experience a time where I lose my job and I'm financially insecure and I could possibly lose loved ones. I mean, none of us, absolutely none of us. So while we didn't choose this, it seems like there are choices that we can make as we walk through this time that can help us in determining how we walk out the other end. In one sense we are victims in that we didn't choose it, but I think we can end up choosing either a victim mentality or a victor mentality, not a very commonly used word, or an overcome mentality. And I think there are things that can encourage us to be the overcomers rather than come out bitter and resentful and not stronger for the experience. It's interesting reading stories how as expected initially when people hit these times that they're just in survival mode. They don't really think about much at all but just surviving, putting one foot in front of the other. And I think initially there's that tendency to want to deny what's going on and delay the inevitable. There was one lady who got the news that her husband had been murdered, and she wanted to put off telling her kids for as long as possible. She just wanted to keep normal. She didn't want to accept that it had actually happened. And there's all different stages we go through, isn't there? But I think there's a time where we just have to let go. There's actually a conscious, we need to let go of what was, or what we hoped for, that loss and that grief, and actually grab hold of something fresh, to see the chapter for what it is, and perhaps reach out and pick up new things to help us through. You know, it's a season of being squeezed, stretched, whatever you want to call it, isn't it? It's not a comfortable season. It's not a safe season. It's often a painful season, and generally these are all the things that we avoid. I actually really appreciate what Leigh Sales does in her book, as well as taking us into the lives of these people. She also makes herself very vulnerable. As a journalist and reporter, she shares how she has dealt with things, whether in a good way or a bad way, over the years, in coming alongside people who are in very vulnerable times in their lives. And she shared her own vulnerability about her own fears and what she avoids. And part of a book she talks about, it's her way of facing her fears. She says in her intro to the book, you know, what prompted me to begin writing this book was the thought of what might happen if I walked towards what I most feared, rather than in the opposite direction. What would I learn if I spent time with people who had lived through some of the things I'm most worried about happening to me or my family? To me, paying close attention to these kinds of tragedies felt like staring at the sun. It scared me to do it, yet I wanted to see what would happen if I didn't look away. I really appreciate what she encourages us to do there. Not to try and avoid what's happening, but to actually embrace it in the best way that we can. So for me, I've started off by thinking about what are those things I've had to let go, or I need to let go in this season, things that I was hoping to get started, things that I was hoping to do. I need to let go of those. It may not be a forever letting go, but at this point in time, I need to sit them on the shelf and leave them. I also need to think about what I'm going to embrace to help me through this time, because it's different. And what people embrace is different. And I love seeing all the different creative ways that people are doing things to help them through, whether it's through humour, music, talking, writing a vlog, whatever it is. It's great that we can embrace things that we normally wouldn't be doing to help us through this time. And I'm also prompted to say, what are my biggest fears during this time? What is the thing that I fear the most? I don't even really want to speak out things that I really fear. But, you know, it's good to have a think about it, and how would I cope if that happened? Can I even let myself imagine that happening, and how I would cope? Might sound a bit pessimistic, but I think it strengthens us and gives us a little bit of resilience as we think through who we are, what are our weaknesses, what are our strengths, and just work through what we do really hold on to in life and what gives us stability. I'm going to read you another section of Leigh's book. She says, I realised while writing this book that I'd been stuck on the question of how much truth lives in religion. I don't believe God exists, and I'd therefore been subconsciously judgmental of those who do. Through meeting Louisa, Michael and James, I came to see that I'd been fixated on something pointless. It doesn't really matter so much if religion is true or not when it so clearly gives people hope. Religion is an extraordinarily helpful tool at times of grief and loss because it offers both an explanation for the inexplicable and a supportive community. For me, it has been equally heartening to meet many people who've had the courage to face the worst that life can throw at them without faith. There's two things I just want to say in response to that. I think that we all have faith in something. While some of us have faith in a God or gods, others of us have faith that there is no God. We believe that there is no God. We believe in fate or whatever it is. So I think we all have faith, whether we realise it or not. And the other thing that I suppose we differ on is truth. And it doesn't sit with me just to believe something because it seems to suit me and my time, my culture. Truth is truth, and it does actually matter. I was trying to think of a way to explain what I mean, and perhaps it's like the truth is that we need to eat well to stay healthy. And if we don't eat well, there will be consequences. And, you know, maybe someone had heard that the food at McDonald's was healthy. They saw, oh, well, there's a bit of lettuce and a bit of meat, you know, and decided that they would live off McDonald's food because they believed that it was good for them. No matter how many other people tried to tell them, they had a belief that, no, this is okay, this is good for me. And yet, the reality is that's not the truth. That if they do keep eating McDonald's foods day in, day out for the rest of their life, I think they will face health problems. It's a bit of a silly example, but do you hear what I'm saying? I think sometimes we think we'll just go with what we think is truth or what we have been convinced is truth by ourselves or by somebody else. But that doesn't change the fact that it's either true or it isn't. To end, I just want to share what my framework is. What are the things that I hold on to in life? So yes, I'm going to share my faith. I think there's things we hold on to at all different levels in our life, physical, emotional, spiritual. And so for me, these are the spiritual anchors for those of you that are interested in listening. And simply, probably what I want to say most is that I hold on to the example of a man named Jesus. And, you know, talking about suffering and avoiding it but growing through it, this is a key theme in what the Bible talks about. And I think a lot of people have a misconception about Jesus and who he is. And I just love being able to share a bit about who he really is. And he is my biggest hero. He is my biggest inspiration. I read these stories, I look at people in the world around me, and they inspire me. But ultimately, Jesus is the one who I look to help me through these times. Look at how he coped. What was his attitude? What did he do? What was his manner? And he actually chose suffering. Unlike us, he was willing to walk into it for the sake of love. Now, you may not understand all that, but that's the guts of what Jesus did when he actually went and died on a cross. We just say that so flippantly, but there's so much in that. And the way he did that, the price he paid, and the way that people responded to him is so inspirational. And so that keeps me going. I love to read about him, and actually I have just started watching a series called The Chosen that actually tells people about Jesus, and I like the portrayal. I have to admit, I hate some pictures of Jesus, and I hate some ways that people present him. It's not right, it's false. But I like The Chosen. It actually shows his humanity, shows his heart. So that's just another little suggestion if you want to fill some time and want to watch a good series and learn a bit more about Jesus. Google The Chosen. So I better finish up and go and make some lunch, but thanks for joining me out here on the veranda this morning. I'll see you next time.